In this video series, we'll be discussing the services that are available through GSA's Multiple Award Schedules program, including how to find them and the procedures and requirements that apply when ordering services. This video series is for ordering agencies that require GSA Schedule services and that can benefit from the easy and cost-effective solutions the program offers. In Basics of Buying Part 1, we discussed the types of services and the services schedules available through MAS, special item numbers or SINs, pricing and limitations of the schedules, and the acquisition process for MAS services through determining when a statement of work is required. If you wish to review any of these topics, please view the video Buying Services Through GSA Schedules Basics of Buying Part 1. In this third video of the series, we'll continue with the basics of acquiring services. This includes advisory and assistance services, limited sources justifications, and awarding and administering task orders for schedule services and exercising options. Another consideration when planning your acquisition of MAS services is the usage of advisory and assistance services. These are classified as management and professional support services, studies, analyses, and evaluations. This includes studies in support of R&D activities, and engineering and technical services. You need to be careful when contracting for advisory and assistance services. The requirement cannot be used to obtain professional or technical advice which is readily available within the agency or another federal agency. Think of the professional or technical advice like a supply that exists in either inventories of the requiring agency or available for use from another agency. FAR 37.2 states that agencies may contract for advisory and assistance services to obtain outside points of view, advice, opinions, or special knowledge or skills, enhance the understanding of and develop alternative solutions to complex issues, and support and improve the operation of organizations or systems. The FAR also outlines circumstances in which advisory and assistance services cannot be acquired and used. They are performing work of a policy, decision-making, or managerial nature which is the direct responsibility of agency officials, bypassing or undermining personnel ceilings, pay limitations, or competitive employment procedures, contracting on a preferential basis to former government employees, aiding in influencing or enacting legislation under any circumstances, and obtaining professional or technical advice which is readily available within the agency or another federal agency. Now let's review limited sources justification and approval, sometimes referred to as sole source. When ordering services through MAS, limited sources are covered in FAR 8.405.6, which states that schedule orders are exempt from FAR Part 6. It goes on to state that ordering activities must justify restricting consideration when restricting to fewer contractors than required, per FAR 8.405.1 and 8.405.2, and when limiting consideration to a specific brand name. Some of the justifications for limiting sources include when an urgent and compelling need exists, and following the procedures would result in unacceptable delays. Only one source is capable of providing the supplies or services required at the level of quality required, because the supplies or services are unique or highly specialized. Or the new work is a logical follow-on to an original MAS order, provided that the original order was a competitive schedule order. Note that the limited sources justification for follow-on orders is more flexible than the sole source follow-on in FAR 6.3021. For the monetary thresholds and approval requirements, see FAR 8.405.6d. Here are the limited source justification or LSJ requirements for a limited source order or BPA. Within 14 days after placing a limited sources order or establishing a BPA that exceeds the simplified acquisition threshold, The ordering activity shall publish a notice in accordance with FAR 5.301 and post the justification as documented. Note that for urgent and compelling circumstances, the posting is required within 30 days versus 14. Here are the LSJ requirements for an order limited to a brand name. Brand name only buys do not need to be posted to FBO. They are competed among schedule holders, so the justification is posted with the RFQ. Therefore, it does not need to be posted again on FBO after the award. Note, if your requirement includes a brand name or equal product, it does not require an LSJ, but it does require you to list the salient characteristics of the brand name item. Now let's review the factors to be considered when awarding a task order for services. The three major areas for best value are past performance, experience, and price. Let's start with past performance. Past performance is a measure of a service provider's past customer satisfaction and compliance with applicable laws and regulations. In the case of ordering services from a GSA schedule, ordering activities would typically look at the contractor's past performance based on previous scheduled task orders. The criteria may be tailored to a specific acquisition, but typically include quality of performance, cost or price performance, schedule delivery, and business relations. The solicitation may require offerers to identify a reasonable number of references. Generally, FAR 9.4051 prohibits agencies from placing orders with contractors that are debarred, suspended, or proposed for debarment. So, prior to placing an order, ordering activities must check the System for Award Management, or SAM, which consolidates records from a number of previous systems, including the Excluded Parties Listing System. There is a distinction between past performance and past experience. Experience refers to whether the schedule contractor has previously performed the requisite work and is based on their ability to comply with the delivery or performance schedule, organization, experience, operational controls, and technical skills needed to complete the contract, and production equipment, technical equipment, and facilities needed to complete the contract. In evaluating past performance and experience, ordering activities must be reasonable and consistent with the RFQ's evaluation criteria. When buying services in accordance with FAR 8.4052, the ordering activity is required to conduct an overall price reasonableness determination. This means that the proposed mix of labor and level of effort must be considered in order to ensure that the overall price is fair and reasonable and provides the best value to the government. This does not mean that the hourly rate itself needs to be evaluated. GSA is responsible for establishing the rates and for determining that the rates are fair and reasonable at the schedule contract level. The ordering activity must also ensure that the personnel proposed meet the minimum education and experience requirements stated in the MAS contract, and whose labor category description in the MAS contract is appropriate to satisfy the statement of work in the requirement. Ordering activities have considerable latitude in structuring their procurement. In addition to considering past performance, experience, and price, other best value factors may be considered when selecting schedule contractors to meet service needs. When awarding orders for services, ordering activities may want to consider the possession of specialized experience or expertise, the use of tools, processes, or procedures that ensure high quality or enhanced performance, certifications, awards, or recognition demonstrating competence and/or reduced risks, soundness of technical approach, the ability to successfully manage task orders, as demonstrated in the management plan, and the qualifications of key personnel. Inspection and acceptance of schedule orders for services are typically performed according to the Quality Assurance Surveillance Plan, or QASP, specified in the order. There are two ways to reference the QASP in a schedule order. One is to include the QASP in the RFQ, making it part of the order. Another way is to simply state the government will utilize its QASP for evaluating performance. One benefit of not including the QASP in the order is that the government can modify it at any time without the need for a bilateral modification of the order. There are two types of terminations that may be applied to individual orders for services: terminating for cause and terminating for the government's convenience. See FAR 8.4064 and 8.4065 respectively. Now let's briefly review options and schedule orders. Options may be included on orders placed against GSA mass contracts, provided that the options are clearly stated in the requirement and are evaluated as part of the ordering activity's best value determination. Options may be exercised on schedule contract orders, provided that FAR Clause 52.217.8 and/or 52.217.9 is completed and provided in the RFQ. Funds are available. The requirement covered by the option fulfills an existing government need. Prior to exercising an option, the ordering activity ensures that it is still in the government's best interest with price and other factors considered. The term for each order placed under the schedule contract is specified in the order. Under no circumstances may an order be placed under the schedule contract if the schedule contract has expired, or has been terminated or canceled by the government. Pricing on an order, including options, does not exceed pricing on the schedule contract. Pricing for any order, including options, must be in place prior to the award of any order, including those extending beyond the schedule contract ordering period. And options on orders are not exercised beyond the ordering period of the schedule contract, including schedule contract option year periods, unless the schedule contracts include Clause 52.216.22, which provides a fill-in for orders to extend up to 60 months beyond contract expiration. Before placing an order, it is advisable to verify that the schedule contract has FAR 52.216.22 to allow for the exercise of options on orders beyond the contract period. However, no orders or options on orders may extend more than 60 months after the expiration of the schedule contract. For exercising order options, simply follow FAR 17.207 like you would for any other contractual option. Let's finish by briefly summarizing the basic acquisition process for mass services. First, consider FAR 8.002, Priorities for Use of Mandatory Government Sources, and FAR 8.004, Use of Other Sources before planning your acquisition. Next is acquisition planning, as required by FAR 7.105. Then, market research as required by FAR 10.001. Remember, market research should be conducted only among schedule holders, as FAR 8.4 procurements shall not be competed outside the schedule's program. After research is communicating the need for services, i.e., issuing the RFQ, and describing the work through a statement of work if required. A couple of key things to remember. When awarding service-based contracts, agencies are mandated to use performance-based acquisitions, and when competing an order, you need to specify which special item numbers or SINs the scope of your requirement falls under. Only contractors that hold the specified SINs may compete on your order. Next, determine if a statement of work is required. This will determine which FAR 8.405 ordering procedure needs to be utilized: 8.405.1 for firm fixed-price services, or 8.405.2 for services that require a statement of work. To determine if a statement of work is required, you need to identify the type of service that is being acquired, firm fixed price or hourly rate, and the amount of the order. Make any considerations for usage of advisory and assistance services. If you are considering a limited sources acquisition, follow the procedures at FAR 8.405.6. When awarding a task order for schedule services, consider the factors in at least these three major areas: past performance, experience, reasonable pricing, and other best value factors. This concludes Basics of Buying Part 2 of the Buying Services through GSA Schedules video series. Now that you have an understanding of the consideration for advisory and assistance services and limited sources acquisitions and awarding and administering task orders, you're ready to learn more about using the MAS program. In the next video, using BPAs and CTAs for service acquisitions, we'll cover the benefits of using contracting team arrangements and blanket purchase agreements for schedule services. See you there. For more information on buying services through GSA Schedules, visit gsa.gov/psschedule. For updated training information, visit gsa.gov/MAS-news. And if you have any questions regarding the information in this video series, email us at professionalservices@gsa.gov.